Hey, what's up, BookTube? So it's been a while since I've done a reading update, and I have since finished 5 books, so I thought I better get caught up and film an update for you. I'm going to start out with the 3 audiobooks that I have been listening to. The first one I finished was Murder in an Irish Village by Carleen O'Connor. This is the first in her Irish Village mystery series. There's 3 other books in the series, and I definitely want to get to them soon. This particular series features the O'Sullivan family. We have Siobhan O'Sullivan. She's about 22 years old. She has 5 younger brothers and sisters, and together they are known as the O'Sullivan Six. And they run their mother's bistro, Naomi's Bistro, and their parents were killed about a year prior to the start of this book in a car accident when they were killed by a hit-and-run driver. Not hit-and-run, a drunk driver. He was caught and locked up. And so it's been tough going, keeping the family business going. Her the second born, James, sort of isn't as supportive as he could be. He has a drinking problem, which is, it seems like he's getting it under control as the story opens up, but, yeah, you'll find out more about that as you read in the story, but things take a turn for the worse when one morning they're getting the bistro ready to open, only to discover that there's a dead man sitting at one of their tables with a pair of beautician's scissors sticking right out of his chest. And the connection that this particular man has to the family and past events make the O'Sullivans prime suspects in his death. Plus the location doesn't help any either, and it certainly isn't good for business. So now Siobhan has to try and set out and try to solve this mystery as quickly as possible, because now James happens to be the prime suspect out of all of them. I thought it was really, really well done. This is narrated by Carleen Lennon. I thought I did a fantastic job. I think if she narrates them all, I would probably continue the series on audio. Yeah, I thought it was a really good mystery series, really tightly knit. I didn't really see the outcome or where it was going. And I really like the character of the family and the small little village setting and how everyone seems to know each other or each other's business, to a certain extent, obviously. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I definitely recommend it. The next one up, I thought I would finally get to. It's been bouncing around BookTube for quite a while, and it being Pride Month, I thought it was perfect time to give this one a listen. This is Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertelli. It was narrated by Michael Crouch, who did a fantastic job. Really made the character of Simon appealing and interesting. And in case you don't know what it's about a junior in high school named Simon who is closetedly gay, and he is involved in a internet romance, you should say, with a young man just named Blue. Together they only know each other as pen names Blue and Jacques. And one day, after emailing to each other while he was at school, he forgets to completely close out or log out, and another student by the name of Martin discovers the email and realizes Simon's big secret, and he threatens to kind of, in a subtle way, threatens to sort of out that information. And Simon's horrified, of course, and also even more so for this unnamed person, you know, his internet romance Blue, if this information gets out. And it is about, what it's like being a closeted gay, what it's like being bullied, blackmailed, just general teenage angst. There's a lot of sarcastic wit within it, which made it a little more fun. And the later aspect of it, just a really, really well-written book, and I was glad to finally get it. Of course, they did make a movie out of it called Love, Simon. I have yet to see that. I heard in some cases the movie's better. In some cases that can be. I don't know. I'm hoping it'll come to Netflix sometime soon so I can check it out, but I really, really enjoyed that. The last book I finished on audio was Daphne du Maurier's The Loving Spirit. I am participating in the du Maurier read-along that Ange over at Beyond the Pages is hosting. She's doing, every month she's going to read a Daphne du Maurier novel, starting chronologically. So this is the first book she wrote back in 1931. And it was really, really good for a debut novel. It is a little bit more on the slow-paced side, and it is sort of a multi-generational story covering 4 generations of one family, the Coombe family. And it's situated kind of on a Cornish fishing village, fictional one by the name of Plyn. and we meet Janet, who's about to be married to Thomas Coombe, which will sort of tame her spirit. She's always kind of wished she was born a boy, just because of the freedom to hop on a ship and sail. It's something she's always dreamed of, but not something that would be open for a woman for her future. And so she decides to settle down and marry and start a family. And sometimes she goes off to the cliff's edge and looks out into the sea, and she comes across this person, dark-haired young man. She's just drawn to this person, and we'll find out who this person is sort of later on. But the family, in terms of these multi-generational storylines that you get, we covered Janet, and then we meet her son Joseph. It's her second-born son, I think it was, or third-born son, but not her first child. And then his son Christopher, and then finally Christopher's daughter Jennifer at the end. So these are the four generations of Coombe family that we meet, and Janet's sort of restless spirit, the sort of searching for something, always seems to follow each successive generation. The one thing that kind of creeped me out, I think some people will say this too, is the mother-son bond between Janet and her son Joseph. It was just a little too close. There's nothing incestuous going on, but it was just a weird kind of bond beyond what seemingly felt comfortable. And I didn't really like Joseph's character. He wasn't a very nice person. But I still enjoyed his storyline immensely, and the descriptions of the sea and the village life and everything. But yeah, the mother-son bond was a bit bizarre. But I guess it's sort of this restlessness, this restless spirit that sort of pervades all the way down. And there's sort of, with this mysterious character, I guess, that she sees, someone from her future that's sort of almost like a supernatural-ish kind of feeling to the novel, and along with her spirit that sort of pervades all the way through the book. But for a debut book, I thought it was very well written. Like I said, just a little bit more on the slower pace. I think overall I gave it like 3 stars. But I did enjoy it. So I'm looking forward to reading more of Temari's books. I've got there's Jamaica Inn. I got like a collection of short stories. But I'll be reading them in the same order that Ange will be doing for this read-along. Moving on to physical books, I read Neil Spring's The Lost Village. This is the second book. It follows The Ghost Hunters, which I read quite some time ago and did a review. If I can put a link to it, I'll put it down below. Otherwise, just go to my channel and you'll find it in, I think, a playlist for reviews. This features the real-life ghost hunter by the name of Harry Price. And it takes him and puts him in a fictional setting with a fictional partner by the name of Sarah Gray. And it follows events directly from the previous book, The Ghost Hunters. In this particular one, Sarah and Harry have sort of had a falling out earlier. Their relationship kind of soured, but Harry will be back in her life within the pages of this. It's sort of her reminiscing. The events took place, the major events of this Lost Village take place around the 1930s, but it opens up in 1978 where she's remembering these events and starts out just writing a little synopsis of things, and then you get the whole storyline as it flows. It is set in the village of Imber, which actually was a real village, and there's a note from the author that the events that take place in this village, she moved to a different time frame for this, just for the purposes of this particular setting. She moves it to 1914. But what happened was, it is a ghost town, Imber. It's a ghost town in terms of there's no one living there anymore. The time of the Second War, it says, the Second World War, that the army sort of took over the village with the plans of giving it back afterwards, but they never did give it back. And now the only time that the villagers are allowed back in is like one time a year to pay respects to their loved ones in the graveyards. But in terms of this storyline, there seems to be some sort of haunting situation going on, and Sarah's asked to kind of look into it, and she decides to contact her old nemesis, friend, whatever you want to call him, Harry Price, to kind of investigate as well. Sarah is an interesting character. She sort of has some sort of psychic abilities that she wasn't quite aware of until she kind of came into Harry's atmosphere or whatever. And Harry suspects something about like this within her, and he's always giving her odd looks, and you're just like, just tell her what's going on. He knows certain things, it seems like, about her past, or suspects things, but he never really comes out and tells her anything. It's almost like he's waiting for her to discover it, which is sometimes frustrating as the reader, but I mean, that makes for the mysterious atmosphere. But I really like these stories. He's got another book called The Watchers. I don't think it's part of that Harry Price kind of storyline, but I really enjoy his writing a lot, so I definitely want to check that one out. And yeah, I definitely recommend it if you like a little ghostly kind of supernatural feel to your reading. And other than that, I also read 2 of the manga within this omnibus of Full Metal Alchemist. I read volumes 11 and 12. It's been a while since I had picked this up, and I kind of wanted to delve back into some manga. Yeah, it's a great storyline about these 2 brothers, Elric and Alphonse, and the basic plot is they're alchemists. Their father was an alchemist. He could create things, transmute metal and things like that into other objects with some kind of inner power, and it seems the 2 children have that. Their father had gone off somewhere, and they were with their mother, and their mother becomes very sick and ends up dying, and they decide to try and bring her back to life through alchemy, and things go horribly wrong, and their bodies are kind of like almost torn apart. Elric, our Full Metal Alchemist, he can do all sorts of things with metal. He ends up losing an arm, and Alphonse's soul is like pulled out of his body. And in a effort to try and save his brother, he sacrifices his leg, and he's able to pull his soul into sort of like a metal shell. So his brother Alphonse walks around in this sort of suit of armor, which I don't know if I'll find a picture of in time. But that's the only thing sort of holding him together. And they end up going to, I don't know what you'd call the particular character, but she ends up fashioning a metal arm and a metal leg for Elric so he can get about and stuff. And eventually he becomes a state alchemist, so he's like licensed and everything. And together Alphonse and Elric are trying to find what they call the Philosopher's Stone, something that they can hopefully use to right the wrong that they created. They failed to obviously bring their mother back, and this horrible thing happened to them, and now they're trying to find this Philosopher's Stone, which will, I guess, give them the power to get their bodies back in some manner. But there's other people that are also trying to look for this. So it's just a really, really cool series. I love the artwork within it. Sometimes they have flashbacks. Oh, here we go. There's Alphonse in his sort of metal body. And it's just a really, really good series. So I should have finished this quite some time ago. It's been sitting on my shelf forever. There's quite a few volumes of it. I'm not even sure if I own them all. There's like 27. That might be the last one. It sounds about right. But anyway, yeah, I'm really, really enjoying that. And now moving on to what I'm currently reading. I'm currently listening to A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. This is a book that seems to polarize most of the booktube. You either seem to love it or hate it. I'm going to reserve judgment until I'm finished with it. And it's kind of the story of like 4 former college friends that are kind of moving on into their careers now, but they're still rather close. And the main focus is this young man named Jude, who suffered a lot of horrific things when he was younger. I'm just kind of coming across what those things were, and is very traumatized by it. He suffers from like post-traumatic stress, it seems like, and he's very scarred physically as well from the events of that time, and how it's affecting his life and the lives of his friends as the story goes on. I can tell it's a very slow pace. It goes into lots of detail sometimes that I just kind of want to fast forward. I am currently listening to it at a faster pace than I usually do. Usually I'll just listen to it as a normal speaking pace on Audible, because I don't like that sort of when you speed up the sound, it has like a robotic sound to the voice. It just doesn't sound natural, and it kind of grates on my nerves. But I have increased this one a little bit because it just to help speed up the pace a little bit, you might say. So like I don't really know how I feel about it. Right now it's just a kind of an okay storyline, a bit depressing. I hear it's pretty much depressing the whole way through, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I was going to, in terms of my next physical book, I was going to start The Essex Serpent by Sarah Perry. And I really want to get into this, but I'll probably wait till next week because right now there's the manga readathon, and I want to kind of just focus on manga this particular week. It started, I think it was Sunday, whatever the 17th was, and it goes through the end of the week. And there's all sorts of like challenges and things like that. Last year I did a lot of the challenges, which was sort of this bingo card thing where you had different things to look for in the manga you were reading, like different objects. And you have to take a photo of it and post it on Twitter, and you know what list all like what manga it was in, what challenge you were satisfying. Now, I really got into this. I had a lot of fun with it, but I ended up noticing by the end of the readathon that I didn't get a lot of reading done, and I really wanted to read a lot of manga. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on instead. There are challenges and things, and I'll get into more on that in a separate video following this one, but. What I am currently reading then instead is, like I said, I just kind of started off the week by polishing this one off, and I'm continuing with the next 3 volumes of manga within here, which is Full Metal Alchemist. I've already read 13 and 14 out of here, and I'm starting the last volume in this particular manga. So in terms of the readathon, I've already read 2 manga out of Full Metal Alchemist. Kind of a follow-up to one of my oldest mangas that I've had sitting on my shelves for a while. So yeah, that's my reading update. Let me know what you guys are reading down below, and I will see you next time. Later.